Hello there, welcome to the Saroy channel wherever you are in the world, and so much love to each and every one of you. I do hope you're doing remarkably well. I'm doing great, thank you very much. Dark skies out there, raining quite hard, so I'm very, very happy to be sharing the second part of the story with you. So before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell and the thumbs up, and let's get started with the second part of our story tonight. Right, I'll leave you both to talk, while I go and get the drink, shall I? Said Ivan, glancing over at the busy bar. Goodness gracious me, it is very busy tonight. It's not normally as chaotic as this. It's going to be quite a while before I get my order through, it seems. What will you be having, Angeline? And what do you think Alice would like? As we better not wait for her to come back, or the queue will get significantly bigger. And worming my way through that crowd of very eager people isn't going to be a walk in the park, I'm afraid to say. I think 2 vodkas, limes and lemonades would be great for the both of us, said Angeline. I know Alice is partial to vodka, lime and lemonade. It's her go-to drink, so it's safe to order that for her. And what about you, Ryan? What can I get you? I owe you big time for coming here tonight, so the drinks are all on me, said Ivan affirmatively. I will have a craft beer, Ryan had said. All the same thing as you. I'm not picky. So I believe congratulations are in order, said Ryan, turning around to look at Angeline, when Ivan had moved towards the bar, where people were lining up to get their orders attended to. I understand you recently got engaged to your boyfriend Milo. Ivan was telling me all about it. That's right, said Angeline with a chuckle, reaching out to show her sparkling engagement ring to Ryan. That's a very lovely ring, said Ryan approvingly. Very tasteful. So when did Milo pop the question? He asked. A week ago, said Angeline dreamily. It feels like I've been engaged to Milo for yonks. I'm so desperately happy at the moment, but it's awfully frustrating for me because I can't share my enthusiasm with my very best friend. Because it's like rubbing salt into the wound, isn't it? Alice was returning from Paris when I told her my great news, and that was moments before she actually walked in on her boyfriend in her apartment in bed with another woman. I can't imagine what must have been going through her head to see something like that. It must have been mortifying for her. I could hardly harp on about my own happiness, could I, when my friend's life is in tatters around her? I feel so dreadfully bad for Alice, really I do. Because she sees everything with me go so smoothly with Milo. She senses my joy, while her relationship appears to have fallen apart. So her despair has meant I've tried to suppress how happy I actually feel about being engaged. And that has been really tough on me, let me tell you. We normally share everything together because we're best friends. But I have to hold back on my feelings at the moment. Are you talking about me again? Came a disgruntled female voice that Ryan thought he recognised. I might have known you'd talk about me, Angeline, behind my back like this. I wish you wouldn't run your mouth like a diesel lawnmower. I get you mean well by me, but I don't appreciate it. I'm sorry, I don't want my dirty laundry aired to all and sundry, thank you very much, especially to strangers that don't even know who I am. Ryan glanced up to look at the woman he had thought about for over 5 years. It was Alice Sawyer. He could hardly believe his eyes. Was it really her? To think he'd nearly missed out on this opportunity of seeing her again, when he'd almost declined Ivan's offer to come here tonight. She was as lovely as he remembered, probably more so, but there was an enraged anger in her fiery eyes, like there'd been the last time that they had met. She glanced over briefly to Ryan. I suppose Angeline over here is telling you about what a douchebag my ex-boyfriend is for cheating on me. Has she given you the whole juicy story? Oh, don't be like that, Alice, for goodness sake, said Angeline gingerly. I was just telling my brother's friend Ryan over here that you've been in a bad place recently, that's all. Don't make such a mountain out of a molehill about it. It's true, your ex-boyfriend Dustin was a douchebag and is a douchebag for doing the dirty on you. There, I've said it. And contrary to what you may believe, Alice, I only have your best interests at heart. And yes, I'm telling Ryan about what a nasty piece of work your ex-boyfriend was. That's all. Angeline was just concerned about you, Ryan said politely. I'm very sorry about your last relationship with your ex. Not as sorry as I am, said Alice, frowning. She glanced over at Ryan and said, You look awfully familiar. Haven't I seen you somewhere before? I usually don't forget a face. Yours is definitely a memorable one, but I can't place you. Ryan didn't want to remind Alice that the last time they'd met, he'd inadvertently knocked her to the ground in a university lecture hall, and as a consequence she had been far from amused by this, so he decided he would plead ignorant and pretend that no, they'd never met before, as right now Alice thought all men were losers, and he didn't want to add fuel to this fire. No, I don't believe we've ever met, he said, averting his eyes from the blue eyes that were studying him intently. That is so funny, said Alice, looking puzzled. I could swear I recognise you from somewhere, but I can't place your face at all. It's so frustrating to me when that happens. My mind is a whirl because I feel as if I know you from somewhere, but I can't figure out where and when it happened. I'm telling you, your face is really familiar. No, it isn't. You don't know Ryan, said Angeline. You've never met him before. He works with my brother, but they've only recently hung out together socially, so there's no way you can know him from anywhere. The evening had been a huge success, and it would seem that Ryan and Alice had hit it off, as she was laughing at all his jokes, and it looked as if all the heaviness that had been weighing her down had lifted off her, for she appeared to be thoroughly enjoying herself, which was a very good sign. Angeline took Ryan to one side privately and praised him with great gusto. You've done wonders with Alice tonight, Ryan, she said appreciatively. I'm so grateful you came to the bar tonight, really I am. If I'm not mistaken, I noticed there was a very definite spark between the two of you. I think you like Alice, don't you, Ryan? Is it that obvious? Said Ryan, hanging his head rather bashfully. I thought I hid it well. No, you didn't, I'm afraid. You can't hide that sort of thing from people, chuckled Angeline. It was blindingly obvious to me you liked her a lot. And I think she liked you too, because it was like the 4th of July. There were fireworks erupting between the two of you. It's funny, you know, but Alice is absolutely convinced she's met you before, Ryan. That's because she has, Ryan admitted. In less than auspicious circumstances, I'm afraid to say. Really? What happened? Asked Angeline, looking bemused. Why didn't you say anything to Alice when she recognised you? Well, if you must know, she was one day in the lecture hall with her brother Garth on the university campus. I think Garth wanted to show her what life was really like on a university campus. And from what I overheard Alice saying about the lecture, I could say she wasn't remotely impressed. I think I overheard her saying that coming to the university had affirmed for her that she'd done the right thing in following her dreams. Well, that doesn't surprise me one bit, laughed Angeline. I mean, can you really imagine someone like Alice putting up with a boring lecture? But where do you come into this story? Well, when I saw Alice for the first time, I was quite taken by her. I knew I had to meet her and ask her out. And so as she was leaving the lecture hall, I inadvertently pounced on her. Not literally, of course, but I certainly came across that way. A young student behind me pushed me into her. She fell over, lost her footing, and let's just say, was on the floor in a crumpled heap. Lying there, really. She was not remotely happy. She and her brother Garth both unapologetically gave me a big piece of their minds. Not that I blame them, of course. And I left that lecture hall cursing under my breath for making such a mess of things. In truth, I never thought I'd run into the likes of Alice ever again. So meeting her tonight was certainly a turn-up for the books. It seems almost serendipitous, you could say. Although, let's just say the timing could not be less opportune. Anyone can see Alice is extremely distressed about her previous relationship, so I can hardly go running after her demanding to take her out, because I'm quite sure she wouldn't be interested. But you need to do something about your feelings towards her, Ryan. You'd be good for her, I know you would. You're in a different league to that loser Dustin. You've got to ask her out, Ryan. I'm begging you. Do the right thing. But how can I do that? Said Ryan awkwardly. Haven't I just mentioned to you the sorry state your friend is in? I do not think that Alice is in the right place to begin dating again. I think in relationships, timing has to be everything. If I was to ask Alice out now, things could go extremely pear-shaped. She's not over her ex, is she? Anyone can see that.
Look, I agree with you on that one, said Angeline, but I still think you should take the bull by the horns. There's no harm in asking her out, is there? She can only say no to you. And if that's the case, you can move on, and maybe another time you could potentially ask her out, when the dust has settled for her.
Well, I suppose you're right, said Ryan, who walked over to Alice and shook her hand, as he thought it would be rather forward to give her a hug, so was holding back on any emotional intimacy. It's been very nice meeting you this evening, Alice, he said politely.
Alice chuckled. Oh, don't be so formal, Ryan, she said, giving Ryan a big warm hug that made Ryan's insides turn to mush, rather like a little kid hugging a puppy for the very first time. It's been really good to meet you, Ryan, and I mean that. Thank you so much for coming here this evening. You've made me laugh so much my stomach is actually hurting. I haven't laughed in such an age. You've been quite a tonic for me, you really have, and I really appreciate that.
Well, we could do it again if you like, said Ryan, his heart fluttering wildly in his chest, as he hung on to the hope that Alice would accept his offer to go out on another date. So he held his breath, hoping to hear the beautiful words, "Yes, that would be lovely," but they never came. It's kind of you to ask, Ryan, but no thanks all the same. I've really enjoyed your company tonight, and as I say, I've laughed so much, but I'm not ready to get involved with anyone, even if it's only just going out for a drink. I'm just not in a good place at the moment, as I'm sure you can understand. But give me your cell number all the same, and let's just say when I'm in a better place, I'll give you a call, and we can go out on that date if you like. Ryan had privately thought that he'd never ever hear from the likes of Alice Sawyer again, and he'd come to terms with it in his way. He thought that she had postponed the very idea of them getting together, as her way of telling him, indirectly, that she wasn't interested in him. But against all the odds, and out of the blue, on what was a very auspicious day for Ryan, Alice Sawyer called him, and she said she was ready to go out on that date that she had promised him, if he was still eager to take her out, that is. I'm not sure I should have phoned you, Ryan, she said somewhat gingerly. It's just when we met, I was very broken up, but I do recall when we got together. Well, we got on so well, didn't we? And you certainly made me laugh so much. And I do appreciate a man with a great sense of humour like you. I did promise to go out with you, if you're still single, so I thought I'd give you a call on the off chance you were. Angeline is under the impression you are, and actually she's the one that encouraged me to give you a call. I am single as it happens. Angeline is right, said Ryan, unable to believe that Alice had actually called him. I thought you'd never phone me, Alice. I thought when you said that you would call me at a later date, that you were indirectly snubbing me, so to speak, politely giving me the brush off, in the nicest possible way, of course.
Absolutely not. I don't know where you got that idea from. I was being totally honest. I can't think why you would think like that. When I met you, I was in a rock-bottom place, if you remember. It certainly wouldn't have been fair on either you or me to go out on a date with you, because I wasn't in the right space. But things are different now. We got on very well that night at the bar, and after I met you, I felt a lot better about my circumstances. I really did, because I realised there were some good men out there. I remember you made me laugh a lot, which was a miracle given I was in such a dark place. I only told you I would call you when I was back to being my old self again. No one wants to go out with someone who's carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders like I was back then. I just wanted time to come to terms with my loss, as losing Dustin, even though he did the dirty on me. Well, it was kind of a bereavement, wasn't it? When we broke up, even though I'm seriously glad we're not together anymore, and I don't say that lightly.
I suppose it is like a bereavement when you lose someone important in your life and when your hopes are dashed. So it is a bit like a death, Ryan agreed. And then in a low voice he practically whispered, Are you over Dustin now?
Oh, I'm over him, said Alice. Dustin was an absolute loser. I don't know why it took me so long to realise that. I'm upset, frankly, that I wasted my time getting hot under the collar about that douchebag. He cheated on me. And so if he was willing to do that, all I can say is he couldn't have loved me very much, or even actually cared for me. If you love someone, you'd never do anything to hurt them, would you?
No, you wouldn't, Ryan agreed. More fool him, if you ask me, for letting you go. That's what I say. Sometimes people don't realize they have a diamond. When they do.
Thanks for saying that, Ryan. You're incredibly kind. Just so you know, Dustin has only gone and married the woman I found him in bed with that day. I couldn't believe it when I heard the news. It shook me up quite a bit, let me tell you. Rattled me significantly.
Good Lord, are you saying he's tied the knot? Asked Ryan, sounding somewhat bewildered. That was very quick work on his part.
Well, unbeknown to me, the woman I found him in bed with was 6 months pregnant with his baby. So how long his tawdry affair has been going on, God only knows. I suppose he felt obligated to marry the woman because she was carrying his child. I feel sorry for this new wife of his, because if he cheated on me with her, he'll likely cheat on her with someone else. You know the saying, once a cheater, always a cheater.
Well, you are well rid of him, that's what I say, Ryan said sympathetically. So when can we get together on that date? How about I take you to dinner tomorrow night? Would that be suitable for you?
Sounds perfectly lovely.
Have you any food preferences? Ryan asked. I mean, what's your favourite food? I'd like to take you somewhere where you'd enjoy the cuisine.
I like Chinese and Italian. But for a first date, Italian's probably a better choice. As after all, Italy is the city of love, is it not?
Then Italian it will be, said Ryan, trying to hide the burgeoning enthusiasm in his voice, as he was still in quite a shock that this beautiful, beautiful woman he had thought of so very often had now taken the initiative to get in touch with him. He had believed that that ship had long since sailed and would never ever again be docked in his harbour. So Alice's impromptu, spontaneous call had thrown him for six. Even his now best friend, Ivan Thomas, who was Angeline's brother, had told him the fact that Alice had given him the brush-off that night at the bar probably meant she wasn't interested in him. Frankly, I'm rather surprised that she didn't agree to go on a date with you. I thought there were sparks between the two of you. Me and Angeline noticed that at once. Besides anything else, you really made Alice laugh all evening. You definitely succeeded in bringing her out of her melancholia, so I'm glad I brought you along. I thought the two of you would be great together, and my sister thought you were a match made in heaven. But it's obviously not meant to be, is it? Ryan had been a knotted, rather twisted tangle of nerves when he had reconnected with Alice again. She had insisted on meeting him at the Italian restaurant, and not to be picked up by him from her apartment. Perhaps she was being cautious. When Alice had glided over to his dinner table, in the far corner of the Italian restaurant, covered with a typical red and white gingham tablecloth, Ryan had almost lost his breath on seeing her, and become unduly anxious, for he knew this was the woman he wanted to spend the rest of his life with, and he didn't want to come across too eager. In the beginning of the date, he had been rather tense, and he and Alice had looked at each other rather nervously, as the waiter took their orders, and choosing the food on the menu had at the very least been a welcome distraction, as both Alice and Ryan had been rather tongue-tied, so the conversation had been more than a little stunted. I'm very sorry. Ryan had apologized once the waiter went away. I'm very sorry for being an abysmal conversationalist. I've been so nervous, to tell you the truth, about our date and seeing you again. In fact, I'm feeling rather light-headed. I just can't believe you called me, and that you really are sitting on the opposite side of the table from me. It seems too good to be true. I keep having to pinch myself to tell myself that this is actually real, and it's not a dream. In truth, I genuinely didn't believe I would hear from you ever again, Alice. And here you are, on the other side of the table from me, looking more magnificent than ever.
That's such a sweet thing for you to say, Alice had chuckled. But you don't have to be nervous around me, Ryan.
Well, I can't help myself, can I? Because I'm in the company of the most magnificent woman in the world, so it's a wee bit intimidating for a man such as myself. And just so you know, that's not a cheesy one-liner for me. I sincerely mean it.
Oh, please, chuckled Alice. Now you're going way over the top. calling me magnificent. I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but thanks all the same for the lovely compliment. You certainly know how to make a girl feel good about herself, and I truly appreciate that.
I assure you, Alice, contrary to what you may believe, I do not have a silver tongue. I'm not very good at giving compliments. But in this case, I genuinely mean it when I say you're magnificent. The good thing is that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and that is very much in my favour. Because if every man thought the way about you that I do, well, I'd be fighting them off, like an infestation of cockroaches, wouldn't I?
Alice chuckled, and eagerly reached out for a piece of bread that the waiter had left on the table in a basket, which she battered with a knife, and took a bite. This bread is amazing! You should try some, Ryan. You can tell it's made on site. It's fresh and airy. Ryan was not remotely interested in the bread. He only had his eyes pinned on the woman sitting in front of him.
I don't know how to tell you this, Alice, he said, but I might as well come clean with you. I've had a crush on you for quite some time, even before I met you at the bar that night.
But how can that be possible? I don't understand, said Alice, looking bewildered. I remember feeling you looked familiar when I met you, and that I knew you from somewhere, but I couldn't connect the dots. You told me we'd never ever met before. Wait a minute. You weren't at school with my brother Garth, were you, by any chance? Could that be possibly where I know you from? I've met quite a few of your school friends over the years, and lots of the kids his year would often come over to our house for various birthday parties and stuff like that. You weren't among one of them, were you?
No, that's not it, said Ryan. I was not at school with your brother Garth, but had I been, I would have definitely been in his year. So you would probably have known me.
Well, I can't believe that. So are you saying you know my brother, then? Asked Alice incredulously.
Well, I don't know your brother personally, so to speak, but let's just say he's attended all the lectures I've attended over the years. At the university, of course. So I know him in passing.
Wait a minute. You were at university with my brother, is that what you're saying?
That's right. We were both studying engineering together.
But I never knew any of my brother's university associates, said Alice. I work as an esthetician at a beauty salon. Well, actually, I was at the time. Now I'm managing the place. I've never hung out with any of his university friends. So how do you claim to know me, then? How's that even possible?
I never knew you, Alice, nor do I really know your brother. I saw you. Do you remember one day you came to your brother's university campus? I think you wanted to check out what it was like to be a university student, as I understand that both your parents wanted you to go to university, but you had other ideas about the matter and believed in following your heart, which is exactly what you did, and I certainly applaud you for that. I think most people should do just that, because what the heart wants is probably where you're meant to go in life. You attended one of your brother's lectures. I think he'd encouraged you to go to university with him that day, so you could get a feel for university life, to realize it wasn't for you. It turns out it really wasn't. You weren't remotely impressed. I do believe I heard you say that being in a university lecture was like returning to school again. It seemed to me that you were extremely bored by that lecture. Not that I can blame you, because I barely remember it myself.
Oh, yes, that's right. I did go to university with my brother Garth the one day. He persuaded me to go with him, and I didn't really want to. And once I got there, I was so disappointed. It was probably one of the most boring days of my life. But you heard me say that I found it boring, did you? You heard me say that?
I did, as it happens. Let me explain myself better. When you were sitting in that lecture hall next to your brother, that was when I noticed you for the very first time. I was sitting in that lecture hall myself, about 3 feet away from you. You never noticed me or looked my way, even when I deliberately cleared my throat a couple of times. It was my unsubtle way to get your attention, but it failed to work. I only succeeded in annoying the student I was sitting right next to me, who I think guessed I was trying to get your attention, and he gave me quite the contemptuous glare, let me tell you. When I saw you that day, You completely bewitched me. I was caught under your magic spell. I knew I had to meet you, but I was painfully shy. Always have been a little bit that way inclined. But when you got up to leave the lecture hall, I knew if I didn't stop you there and then and ask you out on a date, I might never ever see you again. I panicked and ran towards you. I was in the process of about to tap you on the shoulder, but so many students were trying to take the same exit as I was, and someone very roughly pushed me right into you, and you fell over, lost your footing, and ended up lying on the floor in a crumpled heap. You were not best pleased by that. Do you remember?
Oh, yes, I do. Now I know your face. I knew it from somewhere. You were the young man that boisterously pushed me over, and I fell back onto the ground. Is that right?
Yes, that was me. I'm very ashamed to admit it. I do promise you from the bottom of my heart it was an accident. You were furious, and rightly so, and I apologize for that profusely. I knew later that there was no hope in asking you for a date, because you and your brother were quite miffed with me, and there was nothing I'd be likely to say to change your mind about me. You know what they say. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. So I knew I'd blown it for myself.
Oh, believe me, I was mad with you, Alice admitted. I thought you were extremely rude, pushing into me like that. My brother wasn't bashful in tearing you apart either, was he? I'm sorry we both came down on you rather like a ton of bricks at the time. I genuinely thought you were one of those pushy, insolent people determined to get out of the door first. You know the type I'm talking about.
Oh, believe me, I do understand. I see that impatient need to get ahead in drivers all the time on the roads, racing through red lights, determined to overtake you at any cost, while risking life and limb in the process of doing so, just because they want to arrive at their destination a minute or so early. I always say it's better to arrive alive than to allow a couple of minutes to rob you of the rest of your life. Anyway, after that event at the university lecture hall, I thought about you a lot, Alice, the woman that got away that I would seriously like to get to know. But I reconciled myself with the fact that it was never meant to be. And then, now here you are. So what can I say to that?
And you meet me at the bar, in my broken-up state, chuckled Alice, after things went so pear-shaped with Dustin. I must have been a sight for sore eyes on the night we met, but I will admit I felt so desperately sorry for myself at the time. I felt as if my whole world had come apart.
You were never a sight for sore eyes for me. I can assure you of that, Alice.
I don't know why you didn't tell me where you recognised my face from.
Are you kidding me? You were in a bad place emotionally. I hardly think mentioning I was the man that pushed you over in the university hall would have endeared me to you somehow. Even your friend Angeline said you were in a low place in your life, believing all men were losers, and I can't blame you for that. She wanted to show you that that wasn't true, and that not all men are built to be like Dustin. But after I pushed you over on the floor in the university lecture hall, you might begin to believe all men are only self-serving.
Oh, Angeline's amazing. She's my best friend. She's always had my back, you know. When you came along to the bar that night and joined us for a drink, she saw how well we got along together. She was hopeful it would be the start of something special, but it wasn't to be at the time. The timing was off, wasn't it?
And now, asked Ryan, are you ready to let someone else into your heart?
I think I'm cautious. I want to take things slowly. But I do really like you, Ryan. So there we are. That is the end of part 2 of our story. Part 3 is tomorrow night, and I look forward to you joining me then. Until next time, goodbye and good night.